Today I'd like to talk about three VR games, three major VR titles, each of which I said would change the way that we see VR and really speed up the adoption of VR. So those three games are Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, Half-Life Alyx, and Boneworks. And I'll talk a little bit about the differences between those games. So if you're new to VR and you just bought a headset, you're not sure which game you want to play first, all three are amazing games. And if I say anything negative about any of these games, it's not meant to sound like a complaint. It's just a comparison between the three different games and what makes each of them unique. So maybe you're new to VR, you just got your brand new headset, you're not sure which game you want to start with, or maybe you're only going to buy one of the three games. I'll talk a bit about each game, some of the pros, some of the cons, and I'm going to go over 5 major questions here. First, what's it like to interact with objects in the game? What's the physics like? Second, what's the combat system like? Each of these games has a slightly different take on combat, and you may enjoy one form over the other. What about interacting with the environment? How much of the environment can you climb on? Can you grab on? Can you jump on? And finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the storylines. So these are all single-player games. They each have a story to follow through. Some of the stories are better than others. So we're going to talk a little bit about the stories and how I felt about them. Now, if you like this kind of content, if you like what you're seeing, if you enjoy the multiplayer gaming, if you enjoy the reviews, if you enjoy the VR cave build, comment below, and you can also subscribe. There's a small button in the corner there. Every little bit helps support the channel and also helps to tell the YouTube algorithm that this is something that you want to see more of. So let's start with object interaction. What's it like in each of these games to interact with the objects in the environment?
I'm here inside of Boneworks right now, and the first thing you're going to notice is when you look down, you can actually see your entire body and your hands, which can be a bit off-putting at first, but you get used to it pretty quick, and this is different from the other two games. But let's talk a little bit about the interaction mechanics. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to grab this barrel, and as you can see, I can grab it, I can pick it up, I can throw it. These boxes, same idea, I can grab a box, I can break it. Everything feels like I could pick it up and interact with it. Now you will notice in these environments there's a little less, and you'll see that in a bit, there's less things to see or to interact with in the other two games. But I mean, I see bricks here, I can pick them up, I can throw them against the wall. All the boxes, as you'd expect. Like pretty much everything I see that looks like I should be able to pick it up, I can. And same with these bodies here. So you got a body, I can grab by the head, I can pick it up. Now you get this weight feel when you pick up things in Boneworks, which again takes a little bit of getting used to. You basically got to try and keep your hands in the physical world about where they would be on the object, but then you can kind of throw bodies around. This park setting has a few more objects to interact with. So see, I can smack this. I can grab onto the poles. There's a little truck over here. I can see if I can play with this truck. Whoop. There we go. So I can drive the truck around. Random crate. You kind of get the idea. Everything feels like you can interact. What about this plant here? And swing that around. These you can't really interact with, but I think that's part of the game. It actually makes itself look like it's virtual, so you don't expect to be able to interact with this, which is kind of a nice feature. So you don't feel like you're missing out that you can't touch the plant, because it looks like it should be virtual. Now, interacting with different objects, I'm standing here in front of a statue. We've got some candles on the ground. We got a broken head, and you know what? I feel like I want to just pick up one of those candles, but I can't. Right? I can use the, whoops, grab my gun there. I can push against the candles, I can grab them, but I can't move them. And this head here, I cannot lift the head. Now, that might be realistic. This could be just a very heavy piece of stone, but I can't even budge it at all. It's sort of stuck in that position. Same with these urns. Now, arguably, these could be cemented in, but if I were in Boneworks, I would expect to be able to grab and lift this thing off the ground. But I can't lift it in here. Now this is something I also found kind of odd when I came across this the first time. There's a body here, and I'd like to be able to move that body, but I can't. I can't touch it, I can't move it, I can't do anything with it. However, if I go and find myself a zombie, so here's a zombie, I can grab onto him, and I can hold him, and I can move him, but I couldn't move the other body that was down there that was already dead. Seems a bit inconsistent. Let's just get rid of that guy's head. Oh, there we go. And here's another example. I have these two barrels here. I'd like to be able to move this barrel, but it's fixed in place. I can't move that barrel. Over here, I have some boxes of cereal. They can't be touched. These boxes can't be moved. So again, it feels like there's some limitations in how I can interact with objects in this environment, as well as how I can interact with the environment itself. So here I am in just the opening first part of Alyx, because I really don't want to spoil any of the game. So I'm going to do all my explaining within the first little bit of the game. You can see, just like Walking Dead, I just have my hands. There is no body, unlike Boneworks, which is a kind of a really neat feature of Boneworks. It's going to do the tutorial bit. But now let's look at the things I can interact with in this environment. So, see if I can get that bottle out of there. I can grab the box, I can grab the bottle, I can break the bottles, I can throw things around. The chair, that's grabbable. The blanket, not grabbable. The brick, I can grab this brick, I can toss it off into the environment. And that's neat, it kind of bounces off and down the street. You can actually see it bounce. I actually woke up a zombie down there, I think. Or is that a person? Yeah, I just woke up a person down there. That is cool. This bag of stuff here, I can't grab this at all. But I can grab most of the things you see in the environment. See if I can get that bike. The table I can't move, right? So that's part of the fixed environment. I can't move that table, but here I can grab almost everything in the environment that you would think you should be able to grab, which is quite good. So this is very similar to Boneworks in that respect. Again, some of these things are fixed in position. I can't move this computer around. That's fixed in position. I can't move this table. I can grab the markers. I can write with them. This can I can grab, but this bag I can't. So it's similar to Walking Dead in that respect, where some things in the environment you just really can't interact with. But there's a lot more to interact with in this environment than there is in Walking Dead, or that's at least how I found it.
So all three of these games really have some great interaction mechanics. However, I have to say that when I'm playing Boneworks, I feel like I can touch, grab, move, throw absolutely everything in the environment, which is really, really refreshing. It helps with the immersion of the game if everything you see, you feel like you can pick up, you can throw, you can toss. So I really think Boneworks has an edge with its physics engine that you can pretty much grab anything and it feels very natural. Now on to interacting with the environment.
Now talking about interacting with the environment itself, the other neat feature with Boneworks is you can pretty much move anywhere in this space that might make sense to move. So I see a tire here. Let's just grab onto it and I can just start climbing it. When I get to the top, I can start moving across here. Let's look at the fence. I see a fence, I can climb the fence. Right? Pretty much everything you see here in the environment, you can grab onto. So it doesn't really make any sense in the storyline of the game that I should want to climb that fence. There's an opening right there, but if I felt like climbing this fence, I could just climb this fence. Right? Which is really, really quite neat. I see a pole there. Again, there is probably no reason to climb this thing, but I can. Boneworks just sort of makes it possible to get onto anything, and actually kind of rewards you if you do explore different areas of the game. And I really encourage you to go and look at some of the different videos. But the more you explore, you can find Easter eggs throughout this game just by exploring and climbing things. Let me try and jump down here. Ooh, there. Here I am in The Walking Dead, and you know what? I'd really love to be able to climb some of this environment. And this is what really distinguishes The Walking Dead from Boneworks. You see this wall here? Now, I know on the other side of that wall, I'll show you, I can actually just walk towards the other side of this wall. But if I want to climb it, and I can clearly see there's area on the other side there, I can sort of get to this point, but I can't get any further. So you can grab onto walls and you can hoist yourself, but the game is designed to kind of guide you into certain areas, which is a total valid level design strategy. I mean, it did take a lot of work to make every bit of this environment a place you can go, but still, it kind of hurts the immersion a little bit. So I want to get onto that, but I can't, right? If I try to hoist, it doesn't really do anything. So there are definitely limitations on where you can go in this environment. So here we are, there's a pole there, there's a light at the top. I would love to be able to climb that pole. If I were in Boneworks, I know that if they had a pole like that with something at the top, I could definitely climb it. Here though, there is some limitation here. Some part of the game is stopping me from being able to hoist myself up. You kind of feel like you can start hoisting, but it just won't let you climb. And here, I'd love to get to the top of this building here, but I just can't, right? There's limitations on where you can climb. However, not everything is limited. There are definitely parts of the levels, or there are certain levels where you can climb to the top of buildings, and I'll show you that in a second.
Use the grip button to grab and climb certain environmental objects. Okay, now can I just... Might not even have to kill that one. Okay, but if I climb this... Oh, darn it, now what?
And this section here actually always bothered me just a little bit, because I think I should be able to climb from there to there into that field, but I can't. Again, this is just level design. This game is trying to keep you in certain areas, which makes sense because there's nothing over there for the storyline. There's no reason for me to go over there. So the game just kind of limits it. You just can't step over in that direction. This water doesn't look that deep, but I just can't cross it. Maybe this section opens up in a later expansion. It does kind of feel like some of those older non-VR games where you run your player up against kind of an invisible wall and you just can't move through. So it sort of hurts the immersion a bit, but it's not the end of the world. Now, when it comes to interacting with the environment, I would love to be able to climb onto this section of roof, but there is really no way. I can't even really grab this to hoist me up. Same with this wall here. There's no push. Like what I'm doing with my hands in real life is I'm pushing down, but it's having no actual reaction on the environment. So the climbing is limited. So both in Boneworks and in Walking Dead, if I saw a down spot like this, I might expect that I could grab and climb it as well. But in Half-Life Alyx, you can't even really grab this stuff. Right? There's no option to push yourself up. And that's just part of level design. And that's, again, this isn't a negative aspect. This is just where it differs from the other two games.
Both Boneworks and Walking Dead really had some interactive climbing mechanics that made the game interesting. It it gave you a lot of options to solve the problems by, climbing up a water pipe in Walking Dead. And Boneworks, the climbing was just incredible. There were so many, Easter eggs and secrets in the game that you could get to just by experimenting with the physics and climbing. So it definitely edged out. Whereas when I was playing through Half-Life, I kind of felt like you're on rails, and that's not a bad thing. I really enjoyed the experience. But as far as how you interact with the environment, it felt a lot different than both Boneworks and Walking Dead.
The climbing in Walking Dead was definitely more limited than it was in Boneworks, but it was still there. So there were just certain objects throughout the game that you could climb, which gave it another level of interaction. So you could climb to the top of a house and go in through a window, but it wasn't always obvious what things were climbable and what things weren't. So I found myself kind of grabbing on different things in the game and trying to climb, and then being a bit disappointed when I couldn't. Whereas Boneworks, you climb absolutely everything. Anything that looks like it could be climbable, you could grab onto and hoist yourself up, which was great for interaction and made Boneworks just so much more interesting to explore.
Next up is the combat mechanics.
Oh, that first hit should have killed him. Here we go. Here. Ha! Come on. Whoa, Jesus! Get it! Oh! Oh, no, he's coming. No, back up, no. Where's the... No, stop it. Stay there. Yeah, you keep hitting this, go ahead. But there is a gun. That's right, there's holes in you now. Back up. Oh, did he break it?
I think he
Son of a...
smack him.
I can't even lift this thing. Hey, that's it. You're biting my hand. Get your mouth off. Ugh.
Next time, sneaking around. One-on-one.
Oh, shoot. Damn it. So I found the combat system in both Walking Dead and Boneworks felt a lot more in your face and gritty. There was a lot more melee weapons you could grab onto. You could, pick up enemies by the head and bash them. You could jump on top of enemies. It was very, very intense. Whereas I found when I played Half-Life Alyx, I was doing everything from quite a far distance. So there were no melee weapons that I found so far in about 12 hours into the game. However, there was guns, basically, so any situation where I'd get into combat, I was at quite a bit of range, especially when you're combating combine soldiers. You're quite far away, you're kind of looking down your scope and shooting, and even the jump scares, none of them felt very intense. I didn't feel like I could grab the head crabs and hit them with something. Basically, they would bounce off, and then I'd move and I'd have to shoot them. So the combat mechanics are quite a bit different, or feel a bit different in Half-Life Alyx than they do in both Boneworks and The Walking Dead. I actually prefer The Walking Dead because I like that scary, gritty, in-your-face zombie stuff where you're kind of scrabbling to get a knife or a gun and trying to stab something. But I found Boneworks you could do a lot more fun stuff with combat, so jumping off things and lying on guys with a hammer. Or there's a clip where I was trying to repurpose a stationary gun to try and shoot things. So it depends on what kind of combat you're looking for. But those are the differences between the three.
All right, now let's talk a little bit about the graphics in each of these games. I mean, there's not a lot to say here. They are all absolutely beautiful. When you're looking out over top of the city in Alyx, it's just absolutely stunning, the detail. I just really enjoyed walking around in Walking Dead and looking at all the little details of the buildings, of the zombies. I mean, it was just beautiful, and Boneworks was about the same. All three of these games have absolutely beautiful environments. So if you've played previous VR games like Rec Room, which is great fun, but the graphics are really scaled down, or some of those other games where the graphics are scaled down, like Pistol Whip, Beat Saber, there's not a lot of beauty in those games. They're very simple, although very fun. When you play Alyx, Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, and Boneworks, the environments are just at another level. And this is where I think PC VR really stands out compared to some of the other options like the Quest without the link, or even PlayStation VR. I think the PC VR just looks incredibly beautiful when you play those games. So, I mean, if I were to pick one that was my favorite, I do like the graphics in Alyx. I like the environments in Alyx. There's such a variety of things to see there, especially with all the alien fauna and flora. So, I mean, I would give Alyx probably an edge out on the graphics and the looks of the game, but they're all very, very impressive. Now, it's worth touching on locomotion and VR sickness just briefly here. Of the three games, I found Boneworks was the one that made me the most nauseous. And I'm not sure why exactly that is, but I found playing through Boneworks, I could only play for about an hour before I really started to get a headache. Whereas Walking Dead and Alyx, I never felt sick playing either of those games. Now, I played both of those later than when I played Boneworks. So maybe I've become more accustomed to it. Maybe I should go back and play Boneworks and see if I get sick. But I can tell you right now, Alyx made me not sick at all. Not once. Walking Dead, I could play again for hours on end and not feel any sort of VR sickness. I'm not sure what that is. It could be lag on the machine as well. But that's just my experience. Comment below and let me know what's your experience. Do either of those three games make you feel sick more than the other two? Or were you okay with all three of them? The last thing I want to touch on, which is really important for me for a single player game, is the story. I actually much prefer playing multiplayer games. I think when you play a multiplayer game, it's unpredictable, it's going to happen. You're really not so much playing the game, but playing to see what your friends do and how your friends or the people in the game, react to different situations, which adds a different level of fun to it. So when you're playing through Star Trek, depending on what team you're playing through, the mission can be the same, but the interactions can be quite different. But I'm playing a single player game, and all three of these are single player. There is no co-op available in any of them yet. Story becomes really important. And this is where, for me, Boneworks fell flat. It has an amazing physics engine, a great plane. You could do all kinds of fun stuff and Easter eggs. but I found I wasn't going back to it. I didn't feel passionate about the story. I didn't really care what happened in Boneworks. Whereas when I was playing through both Walking Dead and Alyx, I constantly wanted to go back and see what happens next. When it comes to Walking Dead, as soon as I finished the game, I haven't really gone back to it. I didn't really need to play through again. I unlocked maybe 50% of the recipes, finished the story, and then I was done with it. Even though the game was really amazing, I just don't feel like going back and playing just to go back to the same areas and find new weapon crates or find medicine drops. And I think Alyx is going to be the same way. I absolutely love the story in Alyx so far. I have been playing for about 12 hours. I haven't finished the game yet, but that's been 12 hours pretty much, in sessions of 3 hours straight, take a break, 3 hours straight, take a break. And I keep on wanting to go back. I want to see how the story is going to develop. I care about the characters, which is really important for me for a single player game, that you actually feel some connection to the non-player characters. If there is no connection there, I just won't play the game. I just don't care. If the story doesn't suck me in, if the story doesn't really get me going, and if the voice acting isn't great, then I'm just not going to play the game. And that is one of the reasons why I'm not playing Boneworks, but I am playing Half-Life Alyx and Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. So I really hope that was helpful. If you are looking at picking up only one of those 3 games, I'd actually recommend you buy all 3 if you can. They are all just fantastic VR experiences. But if you're only going to buy one, or if there is a certain type of thing you're looking for in a game, if you're really looking for a physics engine or really looking for a good story, hopefully that helps you make a decision. If you enjoyed this, if it was helpful, smash the subscribe button down in the corner there, and I'll bring you some other videos talking about my VR cave and probably some gameplay videos later. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for support, and enjoy your VR headsets.